So I'll begin with this question for both of you. The 7th needs stability and consistency in leadership. If elected, will you pledge tonight to serve the full 5.5-year term and not be tempted to run for higher office or perhaps even a lucrative lobbying job in Sacramento?
Yes, I commit to serve in the entire tenure of the job.
Absolutely. Our issues aren't issues that can be resolved in 3 years or even 5.5, and I will seek re-election if the voter is willing. I will continue to serve the people of the 7th District.
Well, let me follow up on a question of leadership, because it is I think, critical to the future of this district. So we'll do the next question to Caro. What leadership qualities do you bring to the table, and what examples of initiatives within city government have you led during your time in public service? And on what particular policy issues do you intend to lead if elected to city council?
So I've had the privilege of serving on the neighborhood councils in the San Fernando Valley, and I've had leadership positions through the neighborhood councils, which I feel are some of the most powerful assets that we have. And first of all, I'd like to thank the Sylmar Neighborhood Council for hosting us today. And the amount of time that community leaders put into our communities and the amount of effort that they do to make our neighborhoods better, that needs to be expanded upon, and neighborhood councils need to be further empowered within their role. I've also been proud to bring good economic development, preserve open space in my role as Councilmember Paul Krikorian's Planning and Environmental Deputy. And I will continue to be a champion on land use and environmental issues, which is going to be the most important issues facing the city of Los Angeles, because we are now in the middle of Recode LA, community plan updates, and general plan updates. The way that zoning is done in the city of LA will change in the next 5 years, and having someone with the expertise and background to understand it and fight for the constituents of the 7th District is the most important thing that we're going to be facing.
Okay, yeah. Monica, same question.
So one of the policy issues that I intend to lead on the Los Angeles City Council is making sure that we are operating a more efficient city government that is able to deliver the services that, as someone who has lived in the 7th District her whole life, understands that we have been deprived of for a great deal of years. And we need to make sure that City Hall is going to expand the needs of our, support the needs of our community and expanding our infrastructure needs here to deliver these services, making sure that the kids in our neighborhoods that are right now going to and from school not able to walk on sidewalks, making sure that our roads are getting repaved, making sure that we restore the very basic, addressing the very basic quality of life issues that have been deteriorating over the course of the many decades because of the circumstances of the abandonment of our leadership, is something that I plan to take on the Los Angeles City Council, because it's very important to make sure that not only we get our fair share of services, but that City Hall stays accountable to expanding the amount of resources that are available so that we can continue to close the equity gap that we have suffered through over the last several years.
And would you care to talk about any leadership examples from your history in city government?
Yes. So most recently, while I served on the Board of Public Works, I led the overhaul of our city's asphalt plant, because I wanted to make sure that we could produce our own asphalt, eliminate our dependence on contract asphalt, because that didn't dictate a consistent cost for us repaving our streets. And so as a result of redeveloping our 70-year-old asphalt plant, not only are we going to be completely independent and able to produce our own asphalt, we are going to increase the recyclable content of our production, which is going to increase the longevity of our streets, thereby creating an enormous cost savings for taxpayers.
Very good. Let me follow up on leadership. Even though LA City Council members have a significant amount of power, particularly over matters in their district, they're not dictators. Council members must forge working relationships with other council members as well as their staff in order to implement public policy. And so my question is not so much about you, but who will you be surrounding yourself with? And I'm asking you to identify at least 3 key individuals who you intend to bring onto your staff, and could you, for us tonight, highlight their qualifications for the positions that you intend for them?
So hiring a quality field staff in the community that is going to be responsive to the community's needs, return those phone calls, making sure that we are addressing the issues that our communities are complaining about is paramount to the very basic level of services that our community deserves to have. And so making sure that I have a very qualified and talented city staff at the field level that is accessible and responsive to the community is paramount, because that is the very crux of what our community is dependent upon. That is how we get our first layer of information so that we can prioritize the policy decisions that we are going to be making at City Hall. This is a collaborative relationship, and I am someone who has started as a community organizer in a local council office, so I know how instrumental it is to have that grassroots level of information from our neighbors to ensure that the decisions that we are making at City Hall are reflective of the priorities of this community. Making sure that I have an outstanding legislative team that is effective in navigating the budgetary process, helping to identify, and not just identify, but secure the resources that what we need from the variety of pots of money that are available, not just in City Hall, but leveraging the resources that are also available from our county partners is going to be paramount to making sure that we can get beyond our fair share. Because we have been underserved for decades, and making sure that we get these resources into our community is paramount.
And Monica,
And the third, excuse me.
Yeah.
And the third is a strong planning and land use staff that is capable of understanding, taking the needs of this community, the areas that we need to protect and preserve, and making sure that the policy decisions that we are making, for example, because of the circumstances of what we're experiencing right now with Recode LA efforts, to simplify our zoning code is going to have detrimental impacts to our equestrian areas. So making sure that we have the policy team in place that is going to be effective and strong advocates for protecting the equestrian community with these decisions is going to be another important part of my team.
And would you care to add any particular names to any of those positions that you mentioned?
No, I don't have a team identified as of yet, because right now I'm running to represent this district. So it would be foolish of me to start preparing for a team for a seat that I've not yet won.
Caro, same question.
It would be more than foolish. It would also be illegal to be offering positions and jobs to individuals prior to having the office and the ability to do so. So
You wouldn't be offering. The question is, no. Who would you have in mind? Who
sure.
People that you trust and would work.
So I'm going to definitely be having an equestrian liaison on my team. Someone who comes from the equestrian community and understands the issues of the equestrian community, because this district was created to be the equestrian district. It was created to unify the equestrian communities in the Northeast San Fernando Valley. And so having an equestrian liaison that'll understand the issues and concerns of the equestrian community. Having a staff that understands the importance of community groups and neighborhood councils, and a staff that's actually going to understands that when they go to a neighborhood council meeting, it's not just to check in and tell them what the council office is doing and to leave, but a staff that's going to stick around and work with the neighborhood council members and take the information back from the neighborhood councils to the city and City Hall so that we can address those issues and work on those issues. Also, I've seen good staff and I've seen bad staff, and I know what I'm looking for. I'm looking for someone who cares about the community, someone who understands the community interests, and someone who isn't just there for the paycheck and understands the commitment that these roles take. And so I'm going to be looking for those qualities in the individuals that I hire.
Another critical part of the job of a council person is to negotiate with the notoriously independent bureaucratic agencies that run day-to-day operations in the city of Los Angeles. What experience do you have in working with bureaucratic agencies within city government, and what tools can you use as a city council member to prod sometimes intransigent bureaucracies to improve service delivery in the 7th?
So one of the things that I've been most criticized about during this campaign process is that I'm nice and I won't be able to deliver for my constituents because I'm nice. But actually what people don't understand is being nice and being nice to your colleagues and the fellow staff of the City of Los Angeles is what's going to be able to deliver the services for the constituents of the districts. The relationships that I've already built with the different departments, the department heads, but not only the department heads, because the department heads can only do so much, but the actual staff level employees that work in the different departments, I have those relationships. I've been working on those relationships, and I will be able to utilize those relationships for the benefit of the constituents of the 7th District.
Monica, same question.
Yes. Well, don't underestimate that there's also bureaucracy in the private sector as well, and I've held both hats. I've worked in both the public sector and the private sector. I've worked at LA Unified, so I've very well versed in working within bureaucracy, and I've been a very effective champion at navigating it and getting people to deliver for our communities, because that is the responsibility of the job. My experience of over more than 20 years has lent itself for me to have and build productive relationships that over the course of history has demonstrated my ability to make government work. While I was on the Board of Public Works, there were many instances where there were small business owners like Ralph Andrade, who's the owner of Mikey's Cafe, when his business was being affected by the parking restrictions, just as a very simple example. What I did was I invited the members of the team on the Bureau of Street Services who are responsible for laying out the street sweeping schedule. And I invited them at a time that was an hour before the street sweeping was going to commence. In the middle of the conversation, one of the gentlemen had to get up and run and move his car, and I said, now you understand the crux of the problem. Making sure that City Hall understands what so many of our members, our business community members, our local community members are affected by is very important to helping educate them so that they will also be advocates along with me to correct these problems. Those are the experiences, and that is the example of leadership that I bring to this position.
So it's definitely a job that requires playing well with others. And it's not only colleagues on the council, it's not only department managers, it's not only your staff, but it's also, as you all have suggested, members of the community. And so if you could just take a few moments to outline experience that you've had working with community groups in the 7th to solve particular and specific problems.
So again, going back to my position on the Board of Public Works most recently, I worked with many neighborhood councils, and as an example, an issue that the previous council office was neglecting and ignoring when the neighborhood council wanted to do something as simple as a beautification project. It was stuck in the queue for more than 2 years. And at their cries for help, I intervened. And I stepped in and worked with the members of the neighborhood council to accelerate the approval processes that resulted in these community art project being delivered a week later. My ability to listen to constituents, to all stakeholders, just as I did with Vivian Hartman, a business owner who's on Hubbard and Foothill, who was dealing with an issue that had been neglected by the last 2 council offices. I intervened and brought the repairs in from the Bureau of Engineering that re-engineered her curb and gutter so that her business would not be suffering through the standing water runoff, the water that was being run off into her business and would leave her with 5 inches of standing water. Our ability to listen to the concerns of what constituents are dealing with, whether on the neighborhood council or at a neighborhood level, is paramount to us being effective leaders as a Los Angeles City Council member to making sure that we can address the issues that are affecting our communities the most.
Yeah. Caro.
40% of Council District 7 used to be in Council District 2. I've had the privilege of being the planning director for Councilmember Krikorian during that time, and I've worked with the community groups on many different issues. From one of them I'll bring to example, and Mike O'Gara's in the room, who was one that I was working with to accomplish that, and it was in the Foothill District and Sun Valley area. It's Athens Waste. They wanted to expand their existing operations and continue their outdoor waste transfer facility and expand the number of tons of trash they bring into our communities without going through a city process. Working with the community groups, I was able to bring them through a city process of a conditional use permit so that we can condition them, so that we can mitigate their impacts to the community. Now we have a fully automated indoor facility instead of an outdoor facility that has all of the bells and whistles. It's become the model transfer facility and MRF facility in Sun Valley and for Athens Waste. And I was able to do that with the great work of the community leaders that are, some in this room and others that are not. And we were able to accomplish a lot, including it's now the nicest looking facility in it's one of the nicest looking facilities in Sun Valley. You can stand outside of it with the facility full of trash and not smell it one bit. and it's going to have a clean truck fleet, and it's going to provide community mitigations as long as that location is there.
So another of the major issues facing the 7th District has been many decades-long trend of deindustrialization and disinvestment. For example, employees at the Price Pfister plant used to make faucets. Those faucets are now made in China, and in those jobs' stead has emerged a lot of service sector jobs, though not paying the same types of wages and certainly not offering the types of benefits as we used to have under the old manufacturing economy. So my question to you is about what specific economic development tools do you intend to employ as a council person to try and attract high-quality jobs to the 7th?
First of all, I'm proud that my mom, we had the Valley Dream. My mom worked in the aerospace industry on the assembly line. She still does to this day. And those manufacturing jobs were what created the Valley of Opportunity. And we need to continue that. We need to continue championing job creation in the San Fernando Valley. We need to continue allowing for manufacturing businesses to exist in our communities. Doing so in a way, just like I mentioned with Athens, so that they can be clean and respectful to their surrounding community, but still create jobs in the facility. So I've also done that with Bobrick Industries. They were going to be closing their doors and leaving the San Fernando Valley. I worked with them to cut through the red tape. We have way too much red tape for some of these businesses to expand their facilities or to open up new facilities. What we also need to do is champion a preservation of our manufacturing zones. The city has had a moratorium on allowing residential uses on manufacturing zones so that we don't lose the manufacturing land that we have, because when we lose the land, we're going to lose the jobs. And the city of LA was looking at creating a hybrid industrial zone to allow for residential uses in the manufacturing areas, and I was one that raised a lot of the concerns to be able to protect and preserve manufacturing zones in the city of Los Angeles, and we need to have an absolute moratorium on conversion from manufacturing to something else so that we can preserve those jobs and keep them here.
But Carl, I didn't hear specific tools. What tools can you?
So the tools have to be creating a liaison, and that'll be another role that I'll have in my office. Is we'll have a liaison for the businesses, so that there'll be one individual who will, any business in the district can come to that individual, and that individual will serve as their concierge throughout the city bureaucracies, throughout all the bureaucracies, to be able to tell them this is an important project for the city, this is an important project for the council office, and work with those individuals in the different city departments to actually be able to help them open up their facilities here. Another thing that we haven't had is a cheerleader and a champion for our districts in our city. For too long, we haven't had someone go out to the businesses. We haven't gone out to the different conventions, be it shopping center convention, be it the manufacturing convention, and say, here's why you need to be locating in Los Angeles. It was very disappointing to hear that some of our business groups, like VICA, the Valley Industry and Commerce Association, invited a governor from another state to come and poach our businesses here in the San Fernando Valley. Instead of doing that, we need to be partnering with these business groups and going out and poaching from other areas and telling them why Los Angeles is the business-friendly place to come. We have the best talent, we have the best weather. We will roll out the red carpet in the process of allowing you to build your facilities here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Monica, same question.
Yeah, so, you know, my roots in the San Fernando Valley began because my father had that first manufacturing job working at the General Motors plant, which was so powerful in helping to grow our Los Angeles. And just like so many other families, when the General Motors plant closed, he was stuck with his decision to figure out what was he going to do next. Was he going to move his family across the country to help retain that job? Or was he going to discover another opportunity? And fortunately for our family, my father became one of the first Latino firefighters on the LA City Fire Department as a result of the adoption of the consent decree. And that middle-class job transformed our families' lives, but it's many middle-class jobs that our community has suffered the loss of that has affected our community. And making sure that while it's all wonderful and grand to start identifying other potential opportunities to bring in here, we have an opportunity to start bringing jobs now. We have a number of infrastructure opportunities that are going to be afforded to us through Measure M projects, through our sidewalk reconstruction programs, through our variety of water projects in the city of Los Angeles, for us to create these strong middle-class jobs here in our community that are also going to bring the immense benefit of improving our infrastructure. It's why that while I was on the Board of Public Works, I championed the adoption of the Small Business Academy, which helped to make sure that small local business owners, contracting opportunities, or contractors, engineers had an opportunity to compete for these city contracts effectively, because the small business owners are the backbone of our local economy, and allowing them to compete effectively for these middle class, to create these opportunities through these contracts is an instrumental way. And it's a vehicle and a tool to immediately deliver jobs for our community that we so desperately need.
Thank you both. So I just have a couple more questions here. And I guess the next one has to do with the potential for natural disasters. The topography of the 7th makes it extremely vulnerable to a number of natural disasters, particularly fire, but also earthquakes. In your view, is the city currently prepared to deal with these kinds of natural disasters? And what role does the City Council office play in that kind of preparation?
In the city of Los Angeles, well, more importantly, let's get to the local challenges that we have here. Right now, we are under immense public safety threat because we don't even have our fire stations in the 7th District fully staffed to the levels that we need them to be. Fire Station 74 and Fire Station 75, which service both Mission Hills and Tujunga, have each lost engines. And as a result of that, our foothill communities are incredibly vulnerable, but more importantly, we don't even have the kind of response times that we need. It's why we had to have this interim effort of a fast response vehicle deployed in this area to help cut down on response times. Making sure that immediately upon my election, getting those stations back in full service the way this community deserves, given the expansive nature of our district, the size of the geography that these stations have to cover, is really important to making sure that we are protected in the event of these major catastrophic events and the fire danger that we always face every summer in these local hillsides. And I will be a champion for making sure that our fire service is fully restored and that we can bring those resources back to our community, because City Hall has been taking it away from us for far too long.
Yeah, Carl.
So unfortunately, and I hope I'm wrong, but our beautiful green hillsides right now that have the brush has grown, the plants have grown, are going to dry out during the summer. And unfortunately, I think that we're going to, instead of seeing the beautiful green hillsides, we're going to see smoke and fire. And we don't have the resources dedicated to our communities. What we do need to do is bring another fire station to the 7th District. Right now, they have so much areas to cover that they're not making it from one area to the other, or if one station gets called in, it's dragging the resources to the next one. The LA Times has a map that shows how long the response time is, and they are not acceptable response times. They are more than 3 times the national average, or the national standards of response times within this district, and that's not an acceptable thing. What we do need to do is work with the community groups for so we need to bring another fire station. I will actually put in a motion on my first day saying that if an area has more than twice the national response time, you can't build there until you mitigate for that, and you can bring more stations. That'll get the development community to be our #1 champions to bringing another fire station to our community, to bringing more fire resources to our communities, and that's going to be the first way to start that conversation on day one. In addition to that, we need to make sure the fire department has been holding off on deploying any new resources because they've been waiting to do a standards of coverage study. Unfortunately, that standards of coverage study has been held up by the fire department union, and we need to unlock that. If it means that the city council office pays for a standards of coverage study so that we can actually find out where we need the resources, because we know where we need the resources. We don't need a study to say that, but if we need the study, the council office will deploy its resources and hire a contractor to do that study so that we know where we need it, and to be able to have the documentation to back up our claims that we know are true, that we need more resources here. In addition to that, what we need to do is work with our community groups so that community members are CERT trained, because during a major disaster, there's only so much that the city's going to be able to do. We need to work with our community groups to be able to be CERT trained. I'm proud to be CERT certified, and it's a free program that the fire department offers to its constituents. We need to educate our constituents. We need to make it very accessible and do so in different times, and go out to the senior centers and offer CERT programs there. The more the individuals can help themselves during the next big earthquake, the more we're going to be able to survive. The city's only going to be able to do so much with the resources that we have. And I have worked with our foothill communities after the station fire, when we had the rains and we had the flooding occurring, I was out there working side by side with the foothill community groups, delivering sandbags, filling sandbags, making sure that, as a council deputy, making sure that a community that was locked in the hillsides because the road that they used was flooded out, and the Riverwood Ranch community was flooded out, making sure that there's an ambulance on the other side of that road so that if something happened to an individual on the other side, at least they could have ambulance services in their area. That's what I have done. That's what I will continue to do. And working with the community groups, we will get our fire station in Sylmar.
Thank you both. My final question before we take a quick, brief break has to do with civic engagement. Lately, Los Angeles voters have been setting records for disengagement from city affairs. Recent mayoral and council elections have been at or near all-time lows in terms of voter turnout. Can each of you share your thoughts on the root causes of civic disengagement in Los Angeles, as well as any measures you might take as a council member to stimulate more community engagement?
Well, I think the reason why we have a 5.5-year term in this particular election cycle is because we are going to be realigning our elections to our national elections and to get them off an off-track cycle. I think we have had voter fatigue in some part because of the volume of elections that everybody has to be ready for. It seems like every year we've got another election, or in some cases you've got them so frequently because of special elections that voters just don't have time or the wherewithal to continue to participate. So I think that we are on the right path to ensuring that we are going to start to see an increase in voter participation. More importantly, what I want us to see is that it has much to do with the fact that people are frustrated, and legitimately so. They have every right to be frustrated by the fact that government doesn't ever seem to respond to their needs. And so making sure that as a person who has been on the ground, organizing communities, making sure that we can fight for our fair share of city resources together, making sure that our schools are providing the kinds of academic environments for our kids while I was working for the school district, those are the types of community engagement efforts that need to continue to be deployed. People need to feel connected to their government. They need to be connected to their local leaders. And as a local elected official on the Los Angeles City Council, I am someone who absolutely intends to maintain regular office hours to ensure that the average individual that has an issue that they want to raise to the city council member, they have that access. It was a model that has been used in other council offices. I think it's very effective. As someone who has been on the ground working with communities, I am someone who has always been readily accessible and responsive to their needs, returning those phone calls. And so making sure that I am someone as a local elected leader that is responsive, that is accessible, that they can count on having regular office hours to come have that conversation is going to be a very meaningful way to ensure that we can increase our voter participation and our civic engagement in this community.
And those Monica, those office hours They will be in the district or at City Hall?
No, they will absolutely be in the district. This area, because of the size of the geographic area, does have 3 council field offices at this time. It has one in Sylmar, one in Sunland Tujunga at the North Valley City Hall, and one in Pacoima. And so I will hold regular office hours that will be scheduled with members of the community to come in, talk to us directly about what their issues are so that we can address them. And I will have those regular office hours on a monthly basis at each of those facilities to ensure that the community has access that they deserve.
Thank you. Caro, same question about civic engagement.
Voter fatigue is the reason why we don't have civic engagement. And it's voter fatigue because of the number of elections, but in addition to the number of elections, it's voter fatigue of not seeing things delivered to our communities. Voters have stopped caring because our politicians have stopped caring. And we need to bring back if our city leaders started to care again for the constituents and we're out there working with them on resolving issues, out there when there's a community cleanup and saying, I'm here not because I need your vote right now, I'm here because I care about the communities as well as you do. And doing so and being out there, being engaged, fighting, and being a representative of your constituents, not a representative of the special interests, but a representative of your constituents is what it's going to take to get voters to care again. And I will absolutely be doing that. I will also be having office hours, but I would rather, instead of having office hours at my district offices, I'm going to pick different small businesses throughout the district and have my office hours at those locations, inviting the community to come and experience that small business, to come and learn that Coffee and Cream is a great mom and pop owned coffee shop and ice cream place within their own community, and to learn about it and to be able to further invest in our community and in our small businesses. And that's something that Councilmember Krikorian has been doing. It's called Lunch with Paul, where he does it on a regular basis. He'll pick a different location and do that, but you also don't have to wait to get a meeting with me. I have my cell phone number printed on my mailers, and I'm going to be giving it out again today. 714-1516, area code 818-714-1516, 714-1516. Give me a call. I'm happy to be hearing from you. I will have that cell phone number on my website also. I will have great field deputies and great policy and planning deputies, but the buck stops here. I need to be the reason why voters care to go out and vote again, and I will make sure that I prove that.